This is the Financially Simple Podcast, the show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. The content in the show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor or conduct your own due diligence. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor only conducting business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
And welcome to Season 2 of the Financially Simple Podcast. You probably noticed a slight bit different bumper music coming in. We're changing the show up. You know, the first season here, man, we covered a ton of data and we focused primarily on the business, how to improve business. And that content is leading to our first 2 books that we'll have coming out. The first one here very soon. We're in final stages of print. The next book, hopefully by year end. But right now we're going to change it up a little bit and we're going to focus now on the other side of the coin. You know, year one, we spent time talking about the business. Now we're going to talk about the personal finance aspect. I had so many questions coming in saying, Justin, you're a certified financial planner, but yet you haven't talked about the things that we would expect to hear from you as a certified financial planner. And that was intentional. It really was. It was intentional in the aspect to show that, hey, look, I'm different. I think different. As a business owner of a financial firm, our clients are different. We're not typically working with the clients that the mainstream financial industry would work with. Instead, we're working with business owners. And so I intentionally kept season 1 of the Financially Simple Podcast specifically to business. However, now I'm going to change and transition. I don't know how long or how many episodes we're going to take. It's going to be dependent primarily on the content that we're going to cover, and we're going to try to go as deep in this content as possible. But it's also going to depend on the questions that I'm receiving. I still receive a ton of questions from our Facebook page, from our Twitter page, LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. I get emails at justin@financiallysimple.com. People who, in my business world who see me, know me. I was speaking here recently and I had probably 30 questions that I could just do 30 different podcasts on the personal side of finance for business owners, specifically for business owners. So today I want to kind of lay out what I hope to accomplish in this season. And I want to give you some framework, some very simple framework around the way the season is going to roll. And as we go into the season, I hope to be able to break this financial world down into simple terms. You know, there's a lot of talking heads out there in the industry. There's some that are not financial advisors or do not have a fiduciary obligation like I do. They are on the radio. They are very charismatic. They're very dogmatic in their beliefs, yet many times the advice they give is not specific to us business owners. It's not bad advice. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's not bad advice. But yet when we're dealing with us as business owners, depending on the type of business you're in, some of the advice can seem archaic or some of the advice just isn't custom. And so we're going to spend time talking about the money side. I read a quote from Frank Clark, and he said, many folks think they aren't good at earning money when what they don't know is how to use it. Think about that. You know, so many of our peers who are maybe not in the business world or even some of the business owners that we work with, they're so concerned trying to drive top line revenue. They're trying to drive the income that they make. When truth be told, we don't understand how to use money. See, as business owners, we have a tendency to focus, pour all of our energy into our business. We focus on our business to the detriment many times of our personal wealth or our personal health or our well-being. So there's a statistic that we used in season 1 of the Financially Simple Podcast that was presented by the Exit Planning Institute, which said that 90% of business owners have 90% of their money tied up in their business. And that's a super concentration for a very risky asset. Especially when you consider most business owners don't have a business. They have a job that they happen to own, which runs them. And that's what we spent most of our time of season 1 dealing with. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in season 2. But business owners, I mean, we're a unique breed. I've said it before. We're the only people that I know who will work 80 hours a week not to have to work for 40 hours for the man. That's just who we are. But to our detriment, man, we do not build our personal financial health up. We do not take care of our personal health. Talking about health, I'm a little chunky right now. It's been the winter months going through, and as I record this, it's early March, mid-March right now as I'm recording this. Man, I'm ready for some sunshine. I'm ready for some warm weather, and I'm ready for the days to extend. Whenever I get done with work, I can play. On the weekends, I can actually stay outside more than 6 hours. Man, I'm ready for that. And I got to be honest with you, my health is not near as good as it was 2 years ago when I was running triathlons consistently. So I had to get back in shape. Again, what have I been doing? I've been focusing on business to the detriment of my health. So I want to change things around a little bit for us business owners. And I want to show you that your personal life, your personal finances matter more than your business. Now, that may seem contrary to what you might believe. Now, again, your business is going to more than likely drive the wealth of the health of your personal finances. But so many times, friends, I see people when they reach age 50, 60, 70 years old, they're ready to, quote, retire, and they haven't been saving outside of their business, and only to realize that their business is not prepared for transition, as we spent last episode talking. So I want to deal with wealth holistically. In this series that we're going to deal with, I want you to maximize your financial stability and your certainty. I want to help you understand what a roadmap looks like for stability. I want to minimize your financial volatility. I don't want to see your personal finances bouncing all up and down, and I want to eliminate as much as possible the uncertainty of your personal finances going forward. I want you to gain peace of mind in your personal financials. More importantly, with the decisions you make. Should you move? Should you buy a car? Should you not buy a car? Should you pay your children? Should you not pay your children? Should we buy that new asset? Should we not? Should we buy the boat? Should we buy the second vacation home? Should we not? Those are personal in nature that are ancillary or outside the business. And we want to talk about how to gain peace of mind in those things. I want you to learn tactics and techniques that'll help you remove the fear and emotion from your financial decisions. So those are my goals for this series that we're going to be on. And again, it may take us a full year to get through this whole series, but we're going to have fun doing it. So the way I view any client who comes into the Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor. So it's a registered investment advisor in the state of Tennessee and many other states that we do business in. I have to say here that just because we're a registered investment advisor doesn't mean that the Heritage Investors has reached some sort of status. It doesn't mean that we're endorsed. That's not what it means. I'm actually technically what's called an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, which is a registered investment advisor. A lot of technical terms there. The government, the SEC, FINRA, they govern us and they have us say certain things. And I'm going to point you to the disclosure on the episode that you're looking at, whatever it is. If it's on the website, if it's on the show notes, if it's in a social media channel, wherever you look, there's going to be a disclosure that explains all that. Okay. But in my financial world, Heritage Investors, we work with a lot of business owners who are worth 7 figures, 6 figures, 8 figures. We even have one individual that may break 9 figures in net worth here soon. But we work with a lot of people. We even work with people who are worth negative figures. Many times people coming out of college, they are broke. We have more student loans, especially entrepreneurial doctors. They have a lot of student loans and they have no assets. So they're actually negative net worth. So we work with a various group of business owners. But indefinitely, whenever I work with these business owners, I view every business owner in 4 specific areas. And so I typically draw a box. And in fact, I'm going to direct you over to the YouTube channel. I actually did a video on how a true wealth manager views your life. So if you're looking at the podcast and the blog, there's actually going to be a link there on the blog. If you want to check out the YouTube channel for Financially Simple, you'll see where I did about a 20 minute video on this. In an audible format, I'm going to try to relay that message to you here today. There are 4 areas that a true wealth manager looks at whenever we deal with any client, no matter their net worth, no matter where they're at in life. What we start with is cash flow. How do you get paid in your family, and where do you spend your money? There is nothing more important to that. In fact, if you were to Google budget You get tons and tons and tons of different opinions on budgeting, but that's just a small amount of cash flow. We're going to deal specifically with a series on cash flow, and we're going to examine through a mini series all the different ways that you can get paid in your personal side and how you can maximize your cash flow, how you can keep more of it for yourself. So we're going to deal with that. So that's the first thing I look at when I deal with any client is cash flow. How do you get paid and where do you spend your money? The second thing I look at is what's called risk management. I simplify risk management by saying every personal insurance that we use or the legal structure that we utilize personally to manage risk. That is what's covered in risk management. So you'll have things like life insurance. My wife has insurance on her. I have insurance on me. What type of life insurance should I buy? What type of disability insurance should I have? What type of health insurance? No one likes health insurance. Should I have long-term care insurance? Do I need property and casualty insurance? What about an umbrella policy? Man, the list continues. So we're going to look at every insurance, but we're also going to look at what are the key documents that I need to have from a risk management standpoint. Do I need to have trust? Do I need to have legal documents drafted by an attorney like lease agreements? These are not in your business. This is in your personal life. Do I need to have last will and testaments? What about power of attorneys? We're going to start looking at all those topics of risk management from your personal aspect. And we're going to see how you're marking up or how you're checking up to protect yourself in the long term.
You're listening to the Financially Simple Podcast. Show your support by subscribing to this and our other educational business channels at financiallysimple.com.
The third area that I view a client is in the investment world. And right there, you're going to say, I knew it, Justin. I knew you were going to start talking about investments. You're probably going to start hammering stocks and bonds and mutual funds. You'd be wrong. There's 4 different investments that I believe make the most sense for every person to try to balance or to weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, depending on what your goals are. So the first type of investment is one that we'll call qualified. It's called a qualified investment. Traditionally, you'll deal with IRAs and 401ks and Roth IRAs, and some people may classify 529 plans into a qualified account. In other words, it qualifies to meet a certain area of the Internal Revenue Code that gives it some sort of preferential treatment. So we would call that a qualified account. You may look at a HSA investment account as type of a qualified account. The term I'm using very loosely there. So the first type of investment we look at is qualified. The second type we look at is non-qualified. Yeah, those could be stocks and bonds in your name or in you and your children's name or you and your spouse's name. We're going to talk about the types of investments that we can use there, but non-qualified investments also consist of raw land. It could be a guitar collection. It could be that baseball card collection that you have that you just know is worth a ton of money. This last week we were talking about with our kids, Beanie Babies. Back in the day, whenever my wife and I were a little younger in our high school days, man, these Beanie Babies hit the markets and they began selling like crazy. And we saw a duck on eBay that was selling for $45,000 today, and somebody actually bought it. That's the type of investment. I read not too long ago that Legos actually have beat the S&P 500 in their appreciation value. That's a type of investment, theoretically. Gold, coins, guns, bullets. Man, you could continue with all different types of non-qualified investments. So we're going to deal with those things and have fun talking about the pros and cons of each of those things and what you can do and how do you look out for those. Another type of investment that we all would recognize is real estate. And this could be your primary residence. Now, some would argue it's not an investment, but it could be your primary residence, depending on your personal goals and aspirations. It could be rental properties. It could be raw land that you're going to timber. I got some raw land that we've been buying that eventually we're going to timber it, and it will provide a stream of income for us. So that's a theoretic real estate investment. It could be a condo. It could be, I'm going to use a dirty word here, a timeshare. Ooh, that's a dirty word. That theoretically could be a real estate investment. So we're going to look at those types. And then finally, the fourth type of investment is business. You say, well, Justin, I already know my business is an investment. That's true. Your business that you operate on a day-to-day basis that pays you your cash flow income to your family, that is an investment. But let's think outside the box. What if you wanted to buy another business that you were not actively involved in? It was a passive business. That's an investment. In Tennessee and in the South here, I've noticed that they have these ice machines, which pop up everywhere, especially around like fishing areas. Out near my house, we have a huge lake that we live on and lots of bass boats. And there happens to be one of these little ice machines that you can go in, put $1.25 and get 20 pounds of ice, put it right in your cooler, right on top of your fish, right on top of your drinks for the day. Somebody owns that, and that provides income to them. Just like these drive-through car washes, that's a type of business investment. So in our third series, we're going to dissect the investment world. I'm going to try to bring in some just top financial individuals that I know who are masters in these various types of investments. Ultimately, though, after we get through cash flow and after we deal with risk management, after we deal with investments, the purpose for all of this is for us to spend our money at some point. So we're going to talk about distribution. Distribution is the fourth thing that I look at. See, there's an old saying that I heard years ago. My dad used to say it a lot. I heard it many times, many different formats, but he would say, son, we're not in the business of getting all we can, canning all we get, and then sitting on our can. The idea being is that we're not out here just trying to create a hoarding effect of any type of investment just so we can sit on it and never use it. Ultimately, the things that we own or the things that we're building is for some purpose. You say, well, Justin, I'll never use my assets. Well, when you die, somebody will. It's going to be distributed at some point. You say, well, Justin, no problem here. I distributed everything now. I don't have any savings. I just lived at paycheck to paycheck. That's a problem too. So we're going to talk about distribution and saving our money. What are we ultimately going to do with the money? So those are the four main areas that I look at every client. Again, whether they're worth 8 figures or negative figures, every person deals with those four areas. Now, here's where it gets fun for me. And you're not going to hear many financial people say this. Cash flow, risk management, investments, and distribution. All of those are a quick Google search. You can become an armchair quarterback on Monday morning telling all the professionals how to do their job. And I'm going to say that the power of the internet puts so much information in front of us. Here's where it gets complicated. There are 4 areas that are outside our control that really is hard for the average person, especially a business owner that doesn't deal with this day in, day out, to integrate without advanced software, without advanced practice behind them. And these are the 4 areas that we have to constantly monitor in our minds. And that is, number 1, taxes. How does our cash flow, how is it affected by taxes? How is risk management affected by taxes? How are our investments affected by taxes? I heard an individual not too long ago that would trade in his investment account, trading some short-term positions and making some pretty good trades, making some good money with day trading. And some people like that. I'm not a big proponent of that. We'll talk about that in the future. But long story short, he said, Justin, I've made over $50,000 this year. I said, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. I said, how much are you going to pay in taxes? He goes, what? I said, well, how much are you going to pay in taxes? Well, I don't know. So we got to look at it. He actually was making about $150,000 a year as a single individual in a state that had a high tax rate. He was paying about 50% taxation. That short-term gains that he had is going to be classified as ordinary income. And out of that $50,000 in earnings that he made, he is now going to have to pay the government roughly about 30% of it, or about $30,000. And he looked at me and he goes, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, that's about what your tax bill is going to be. And lo and behold, it was real close to that. And he said, man, I would have been better just not even worry about it and leave it alone. Taxes impact us some way or another. The other thing that we can't control, which I think is going to come to deal with here in the near future, is inflation. Inflation over the last few years have been relatively low because of the crisis we've been in. But how does inflation affect our cash flow? How does it affect our distribution, our investments, our risk management? Because it will affect every one of those things. So we have to look at our taxes and inflation. Then we have to deal with ROIs, return on investments. Many people say, well, I want to make as much money as I can. Yes, sometimes you can't. We actually manage cash balance plans on top of 401ks for some of our advanced tax planning. And we're limited. If we make a lot of money in those plans, we actually end up hurting tax planning for years to come. So ROIs return on investments have to mirror the overall financial plan. Sometimes it's not the best thing to make as much money as you can. You're like, Justin, you've lost your mind. I'm telling you, friends, obviously we want our net worth to grow, but sometimes if we try to maximize our investments, return on investment, then taxes, inflation, and the rest of our distribution may be hurt. Finally, we deal with time. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are. I had a young lady in our office this week 48 years old. Husband passed away. 48. Think about that. That's just a few years older than me. None of us are promised tomorrow. We all know friends. We all know people who seem like their life was a lot shorter than it should be. So ultimately, time impacts everything that we do. So over the next coming series, we're going to deal with those four main areas: cash flow, risk management, investments, and distribution. And throughout this podcast series on personal finances for business owners, my job is to teach you to take control of your personal financial life so that your business becomes part of your financial life and does not become the focus of your financial life. Your business is just part of it, friends. It just fits into that little part. It's not the focus. Your focus is preparing you, your family, your personal life for your personal goals. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope that you see some changes in the podcast coming forward. Tell me what you think about the new bumper music. We wanted to change it for series 2. We had to put some disclosures on there, just the way the industry works, especially with what we're dealing with now. Tell me what you think about it. If you have any ideas, you say, hey, Justin, if you really would implement this in your podcast, I think it'll make your podcast that much greater. Let me know. Please let me know. I've gotten lots of good feedback. One of the things I was told is sometimes, Justin, it sounds like you're tired. You're right. Sometimes I'm exhausted. So one of the things I'm working on now is that I'm not going to record the podcast at the end of the day. Just not going to do it. I'm going to do it during the lunchtime hour, whenever the office is a little bit more quiet, and I can just stop and record a podcast while I'm still full of energy. My brain's still kicking on all cylinders. So hopefully that'll help us out some. Hey, do me a favor. Let me know what you think. Justin at Financially Simple, or connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I can't wait for you to see the book that's real close to come out. I know I've been talking about it for a little bit, but man, getting a book to press takes some time. Look, I know I say it every week. Life is hard. It is. Life is good and life can be frustrating. Money, man, it does not have to be. We're going to continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and make it a great day.
You've been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. For more business and personal financial help and information, head over to financiallysimple.com today.